Hello and welcome to my first podcast. Today you're listening to You Don't Have to Feel Ready to Achieve It. I'm your host, Max Röck. And if you have listened to last week's episode, you know when I was talking about you don't have to be ready to do it, I was talking about the marathon, half marathon I was running, last Sunday. And today I want to give you an overview of my experience, what I was doing. So if you haven't listened to last week's episode, you can pause now or go back and listen to it before listening to this episode, but I will also give you a short recap on what was going on and leaning into what I wanted to share with you today in this episode. So I was preparing the last, I would say probably 3 months, maybe a little bit less, for a half marathon. And not my first half marathon, my second half marathon. So I'm not really a regular doing that. It was in 2017 when I ran my first half marathon. And if you see the finishing pictures, I have like a red face, totally destroyed from that run. And if you like to see the pictures, feel free to use any of the links in my show notes to reach out to me, and I'm happy to share them with you, and also share the experience of the first half marathon. And that first half marathon in 2017, in May I believe it was, I was running a respectable time, I would say. Back then my goal was already, which was the same goal this time, was to beat 1 hour 50, or back then it was to run exactly 1 hour 50. That was my goal. And I prepared for it. I worked for it. And I ran the half marathon back then in 2017, and my finishing time was 2 hours, 1 minute and 7 seconds. Knowing that, I think it was a very, very good time for my first half marathon. But I wasn't happy back then. In the beginning. I realized that it was a huge achievement running my first half marathon. But having set the goal of 1 hour 50 back then and running 11 minutes slower kind of gave me a bumper. I couldn't see the achievement I've done. I could only see what I failed, which is kind of our instinct. We look for the bad things first before we look for the more fortunate things in our life. And this time around, I prepared for the 1 hour 50. As I said last week, I didn't feel ready for the time. But anyways, the morning started of the run last Sunday, and I think I got up an hour too late, to be fair. And we drove there. We found the location quite easily, where I had to pick up the start number and everything. But I don't think I scheduled enough time in advance to be there, to find parking spot easily and everything. So luckily I had my partner with me, and she was able to wait in the car while I picked up the number. And then we still had I had to get a parking spot. So we drove around. First parking garage was actually closed because they're closed on Sunday and bank holidays. So we keep driving to the next one. That was open. But then I think it was 1.5 kilometers away from the starting position. Looked down on my watch and saw I have like 7 minutes or something like that left until the race begins. And I'm like, no way. I have not trained for that now. To not make it even to the start line. So I said to my girlfriend, here, take the bag with like drinks for after the run, and I'm gonna run to the start and gonna run that race. That's what I have been preparing for. So I started running, and I got there, asked a guy on the way, where's the start, and he said, it's down there, but don't worry, no rush, they usually start a few minutes later. I got there, was like 2 minutes left, said, okay, let's walk a little bit up to the front so I don't have to go through the bulk of people in the beginning to kind of overtake them when I find my pace. And then it actually started exactly at 10, so I was like 2 minutes kind of calming down again from running to the start before it started. And started, walked easily, walked around the people, and then after I think 2-3 kilometers, so I looked down my watch and like, oh shit, it tells me I'm in like 5 minutes per kilometer. My target time was average was I aimed for to achieve under 1 hour 50 was 5:11. So I looked down, it's like, that's very good, keep going. I didn't feel any pressure, anything. I had a bit of a issue with my right calf, and I was a bit afraid of it, but it all worked out. It was all fine during the run. And then at around kilometer 5 or so, I saw my old colleague, which I said in an earlier episode. I run with her, I think on the 12-year anniversary of my apprenticeship starting, which she actually hired me for. So I saw her on the run, so I stopped, and I didn't stop. They were on a good pace, so I ran a little bit with her and a friend she had there with, and I said like, well, I feel how's going, and it looks good. It seems like you have a good pace to achieve your target time. I'm like, oh yeah, I feel good, looks all good. And then after maybe a kilometer or two, I told her, well, I feel actually very good. Seems like I can go a higher pace, so I left them alone again and keep the higher pace. So the race is kind of structured it's near Frankfurt, on like a river called Main. You run alongside the river, and then after the half of the race, you actually turn back and run the same route, literally back to the finish. And at around kilometer 8, the first leading person who actually finished in 1 hour 14 was actually coming, and was actually impressive how fast he went. And yeah, then I ran to the turn, everything fine, keep walking, and looked down, and my watch told me projected finish time 1 hour 45. I'm like, wow, that's great. I kept up the speed, was impressive, good. And then it came around kilometer 12, and I kind of felt like it started, I felt like sick somehow. I thought like I have to throw up or something like that. So I felt sick, and I slowed down a little bit. And I think kilometer 13, my pace was already, again, reach out to me. I can show you detailed breakdown of the kilometers if you're interested in something like that, if you want to do something like that as well also. And at kilometer 30, you can see I break down from like, I think 4:59 average to 5:20 then at kilometer 30, and thereafter even like 5:40, 6:10, 6:20, at the end I think even 6:40. And every time I get a bump on my arm to get the 1k average pace, so I know if I have to speed up or not. So every time I see that pump, I'm like, oh fuck, I'm slowing down. I know I have to push myself, but every time I start pushing myself again, I feel more sick, and I thought I need to throw up. And I wasn't that imminent or urgent that I actually could throw up and then just keep going, but it felt really sick that I couldn't keep up the pace. But I thought to myself, well, I overtook many people which actually were standing or walking, while they were then overtaking me again a few minutes later. Well, I thought to myself, no, I slow down, I might slow down, but I never stop. I keep going constantly. And yeah, the projection time went up to like 1 hour 48, 1 hour 49, 1 hour 50, 1 hour 51, 1 hour 53, and 1 hour 55. I think at one point I'm like, oh fuck, I kind of have to push myself. I'm not sure how to do it to actually still be able to to beat the 2 hour mark. And then I keep pushing. I think the last 3 kilometers or so, they're even getting a little bit better again, under 6 minutes per kilometer. But at kilometer, I believe it was 19 or so, my friend, she actually came back to me, and she's like, oh shit, I thought I won't see you again, or see you at the finish again having a non-alcoholic beverage. And I'm like, yeah, I was hoping the same. And then she was asking, oh, how she could help me, if I'd be more able to kind of be distracted when I'm focused on it and quiet, or if she keeps talking to me, and that will distract me. So she keeps talking to me, and it's actually great. And then she was keep pushing me when I was kind of falling behind her, and I was running, trying to catch up to her, and she's just like, oh, it's only those few meters again. It's like 400 meters. You can see the finish line already. And through that, I think I was at least 2 or 3 minutes I gained back through that, just being pushed and keep running for it. It was great. And even I had I think I had a sprint or so. It kept distracting me from feeling sick. I wasn't able to focus on it because I was focusing on keeping pace with her and making sure I'm gonna make it into the finish. And then we actually walked into the finish line. My girlfriend actually made a picture of us running into, which I think is pretty cool. And I finished the race, and through that I gained a lot of time back. So I wasn't making it into like 1 hour 55, which I got projected at one time in the race. I pushed myself. I was harder to do it, and I finished my second half marathon under 2 hours, and actually pretty decent amount under 2 hours. So my finishing time was 1 hour 52 minutes and 52 seconds. And honestly, the first few minutes it was very, very hard to kind of celebrate myself or be happy for the time I was running. Because as you knew in last episode, my target time was to run 1 hour 50, underneath 1 hour 50 actually. So what I was projecting and what I was even imagining for the day when I crossed the finish line is pressing the button on my watch, stopping the time, look down onto the watch and see the time is 1 hour 49 and 59 seconds or underneath. But that was the time I was looking for to be happy with my result. Giving the race being less than 3 minutes under that time, where I know it's very doable to beat that time. And I believe even my next half marathon will be aimed towards 1 hour 45 rather than 150. I'm very happy with the result because I beat my time by my previous personal record by 9 minutes or something like that. And I run it under 2 hours. So what now came up in my mind kind of was, or even, which was probably the most crazy thing, I had like 7 kilometers one time when I was starting feeling sick and everything. And I'm like, keep pushing, keep going. How you're gonna be able to run a marathon if you struggle now at kilometer 13 or something like that. And after going to the finish line, it kind of brought up into my mind, well, I was struggling now, so I have to reflect on what I have done during my preparation and do it better. And that kind of brought up the challenge to me to improve there and actually run my first marathon before I turned 30. Which I was starting to discuss with my partner, and we kind of have to work out a way if that's actually something I'm gonna be able to do. I would love to do it. Not sure I'm gonna be able to do it because we might have a friend coming over from Australia, which we share our birthday. So depending on when he's gonna arrive, we're gonna see if it makes sense to run the half marathon before, which I found one which will be exactly the day before my 30th birthday on the 13th of June 2020. So that's something I'm gonna put up here. I might be aiming for. I'm gonna start preparing for it. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do it, but that's something I wanna prepare for, and I wanna do in under 4 hours. Having that said, I'm very happy with the result of last week's half marathon, and I realized it wasn't the day, it wasn't the days before I've missed the time. It was the weeks, the months before, and especially the first week before I actually started my training plan, where I missed that record. And I tell you why. So my friend, she actually texted me straight after, or I think she ran the half marathon and ran back to her apartment, which was I think another 10 kilometers because she's preparing us for a marathon in I think 2 weeks time. And she texted me after and said like, oh yeah, I looked through your pace was very great the first 12 kilometers, and I looked through so we are connected on Garmin where I track all my times. And she said she read through my training runs, and she said the pace was very good in my training run, but I miss very slow long runs. And I was kind of confused. I'm like, what does she mean? She called them like oxygen runs, so I actually have to look up the proper English meaning of it, but they're kind of called oxygen runs in German, and they help your body to know your body has to push further even in a long run. So what I have done was I have actually never done a run over like 1.5 hours in that sense, where my body knows it has to push harder and keep going. So that's where it actually hit me, and I thought, well, why didn't I know that I have to do in like my heart rate 65%, maybe 70% max, even below, long runs to prepare my body to be able to push going forward and do those runs. I read through it, and especially for marathons, they say those slow pace, low heart rate runs, long runs, are important that you be able to go the full distance. And then I'm like, well, that's silly. I would have probably been running 145, 143 or something like that if I would be able to push the speed all the way through. And what I failed to do was doing slow paced, low heart rate, not very intensive long runs to be able to do it. And I didn't know, because I was using a prepared training plan, which I wasn't focusing on the heart rate aspect that much. So it gave me heart rate levels I have to be keeping in, but I was usually going to the upper end of the range to be able, which I thought, to be able to be faster and be prepared and be able to go faster, which was actually counterproductive and had the opposite effect because I needed those slower runs. And what annoyed me on that was, as you might have heard, I'm being coached in different areas. I have a mentor to improve myself and productivity and be more focused, get more purpose and meaning into my life. But then when it goes for running, where I set myself a goal, I'm not able to reach out to someone to actually ask. And I have been running when I was living in Dublin with triathletes who have done probably 3 or 4 triathlons. People who have run, I think his highest run was 90 kilometers or so, ultra marathons. And other runners who have done couple half marathons and marathons, and I'm not able to reach out to any of them, or even to my colleague when I know she's preparing for, former colleague when I know she's preparing for a marathon, reach out and just ask them in like one sentence, what do you think is the most important training aspect I should make sure I don't cut out of any week? And 100% they would have told me long, slow, paced, steady runs. That's it. So not dwelling over me, my incapability to reach out and do it, which I know now I have to do better, which I have practiced this week as well when it goes during my working hours. If there's something I don't miss, I'm gonna reach out to the people I know they might know, and it got me a lot further this week than I would have gotten along myself. What I learned from my half marathon and projected in other areas of my life. So from every area and aspect of your life, you can learn things you can apply to other areas of your life. So my learning from that story is reach out to the people you already know. You usually do things or aim for things people around you or people you look up to have already achieved. So reach out to them. We're in the 21st century. Google at our fingertips with Instagram and God knows Facebook, LinkedIn, everything. Almost everyone is possible to be reached. or someone who has similar results to the person you want to reach. So put in the effort, reach out to them and ask them if you could ask them a few questions and if they could give you advice. And I'm telling you, if someone has gotten up that way, they're proud of what they have achieved, because they would have never gotten there otherwise, and they're happy to help you and help you to get there as well. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I learned it from it, and me preparing for my next race, I will most certainly reach out to the people I know already have done it, and perhaps even look for like a running group or a coach with a group ideally close to me which I can run with, because for now, for this race, I've run most races on my own. I have been only myself to pace, and when I was able to run in Dublin, my pace increased so much more. Was able to run with those people, and seeing the last three and a half, whatever it was, kilometers running with my friend, getting that also to be pushed. I think that's just the power of a community, a tribe we have around us to push us higher than we would get without us. So that's what I will do, and that's what I advise you to do as well. Look around you. There's so much valuable things so close to us. Make use of it, and reach out to me if there's anything I can contribute to your success, solving your problems, and make your life a better one. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Max Röck, and until